guest this year is Simone Sauter. Simone Sauter is a certified PR consultant, visibility strategist, and publicity rockstar. And she's also a best-selling author. She teaches, coaches, and consults how to get featured in prestigious magazines and podcast shows so they get seen, heard, and highly paid without wasting time on social media or paying for ads and agencies. The beauty of her approach is that following her Publicity Rockstar Method, her clients get all they need to build an impactful brand. They get visibility, authority, credibility, and trust. Simone has built a very successful coaching business herself solely by utilizing the power of the media and podcast shows. She has been featured in media outlets such as the Cosmopolitan, Instyle, Closer, shared her story on countless podcasts and TV shows, built a blog with 100,000 plus monthly organic readers, and has created an advertising value of more than 3 million in just 18 months. So I warmly welcome Simone Sauter. Welcome to BrandsTalk.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here as well. It's tremendous. It's unbelievable what you have accomplished so far. And I'm so glad that I can really pick your brain today when it comes to getting featured in these highly prestigious magazines and on podcasts, and really learn from all the wisdom that you have accomplished over the many years. So let's talk a little bit about your background. And before you embarked on your entrepreneurial journey, you worked as a journalist and PR manager for several Fortune 500 companies. You really experienced, you learned a lot. So it really prepared you for what you are doing right now. So tell us a little bit about that time, and then we go from there.
Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. So basically, there is two parts to the story. So one part is my corporate background, right? So I studied PR, I studied journalism. I'm a certified PR consultant. I worked for Siemens, Daimler, like really big companies in the PR and communication sector. So that's one part. So that's really my professional background, and I really know how to do PR, how to work as a journalist, and how they think. But basically, the other part, which is very crucial for what I do, is my first business that I've built. We have to go a little bit back in time. So in 2012, oh, that's a long time ago. 2012, my ex left me after a 10 years relationship, completely out of the blue. And his new partner moved in 4 weeks later, replaced me. And it was horrible. It was really one of the hardest times in my life. And it took me 2 years to basically get over it. Right. And then after those 2 years, I decided I wanted to help other women to overcome heartache faster than I did. I'm also not really made to be an employee, I have to say, right? So I have like slight authority issues. So I decided to start my own business. And I decided to work as a breakup and divorce coach with a goal to help other women to suffer less than I, because I could have if I had the help. And then in August 2014, I started my business, and the first 6 months I did what all the marketing gurus told me. Like I did all the things. I did webinars, I did Facebook, like social media in general. I went to networking events. I created countless lead magnets. I wrote a blog, started a podcast. Like I did all the things. And 6 months down the road, I was completely overwhelmed. I was frustrated because nothing worked, right? So I did so many things. So I focused on a couple of things, which was PR, because that is my background. And I didn't do this in the beginning because hardly anybody did it. So then I decided, okay, I know how to reach the masses. Let's do this. Let's go back to my roots. Let's do PR. And I wrote my blog and I sent a weekly newsletter that way around. And that's it. And well, from there, I just really like my business really grew really fast, right? And as you said in the intro, I got featured in Cosmo and Instyle and all the big ones. I wrote a best-selling book. I was on TV, and like I achieved really a lot, if you want to look at that. And then I also traveled, and I lived as a digital nomad, and I always got myself into this entrepreneur house, right? And I met other entrepreneurs, and then they said, "Hey, Simone, how did you get featured? How did you do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's not really rocket science. Maybe I can start a side hustle out of it." And that was in August 2018, so 4 years later. And that side hustle pretty quickly became my main business. And I stopped working as a breakup and divorce coach, I think in December 2018, January 2019, something like this, because it just really took off because everybody wanted to know how to get into the media. And that is basically like how it all started, right? So I was working as a breakup and divorce coach, and then the transition as working as a PR and visibility coach basically came from outside because people asked me how to do this. And I'm very grateful because I love it, and I love to help my clients to get the brand awareness and to actually reach the people that they want to reach and that they can help, and that way to create the ripple effect. That was a long story, but that's how it started. That's the background.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. And it's really about the questions that all people have. They ask you. Sometimes we don't know what to focus on. We're doing all the different things to figure out. And then there's feedback coming. It's like, why did you do that? And how did you do that? I've seen this and that. So there's a lot of feedback coming. And that helps us to really get a clear understanding of where our purpose really is. It's how we can serve best. There is a purpose out there why we are doing things, but it becomes so much clearer. It's crystallizing. I really like that. Yeah. Now let's look at your entrepreneurial journey. So when you started breaking away from corporate, from the corporate world,
Mhm.
how difficult or how easy was it for you? What was the most difficult thing for you to transition into this being your own boss? So how was that for you?
Oh, I loved it. I just really like the easiest thing was for me to walk away and to say F off. I will never go back to corporate because I just don't thrive with people who want to tell me what I have to do. Again, I really have authority issues, right? So I'm very creative. I want to do my own thing, and I want to do the trial and error thing, right? And of course, I did things that didn't work out, but I did a lot of things that really, really worked out, and that I'm proud of. And so for me, like the most difficult thing was probably the mindset thing, right? I'm very good in strategy and marketing and all these kind of things, but I did not know in the beginning of my journey how heavy the mindset part is on being an entrepreneur. And so if I look back now, 9 years, and I compare my mindset from back then to now, it just really blows my mind because I was in this small box. I was like, okay, I want to run my business, I want to make money, and I want to help other people. And I knew that like 10K months, like it's possible and that's okay. But by now I'm like, okay, let's go for the 6-figure month. And I'm like, if you would have told me this 9 years ago, I would have said like that is absolutely not possible. Like a single person cannot make 6 figures per month. But and not only the money, also the self-love, the self-respect, the personal development that is required to actually build a business and to really grow a business. That is something I had absolutely no idea about and that nobody told me about before. So this was really something I grew into and that I learned from other people. And I was always very attentive to see what do other people read, how do other people talk, what kind of language do they use, and all these kind of things. So I started to pick up books and to work with coaches myself to actually improve my mindset. And this is a never-ending thing, right? So this goes on and on your entire life and on your entire entrepreneurial journey. So yeah, so the easiest thing was for me to say bye bye, I will never see you again, and the hardest thing probably the mindset growth, the personal development.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I also have a problem with authority. I was a good employee, but I really like to do my own thing. And even though I have to learn from my mistakes or failures, but it makes us stronger, more reflected, and It just helps us to really
Yeah.
embrace what we are here for. And I just love that. It's very, very much fulfilling. All right.
Mhm.
You are helping your clients to get featured on this podcasts and in the prestigious magazines, and you really help them to ditch social media hustle and also burn a lot of money when it comes to paying agencies and running ads. And you came up with a framework. You have developed a framework, your proprietary Publicity Rockstar Method.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit more about that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. So first of all, why I design or why I developed it, it's because one of the biggest misconceptions that people have is that they tell me PR is really hard. And it's not, right? PR is not rocket science. There are steps that you need to take, things that you know and that you need to know and understand, and then you're ready to go. It's something that you can learn, and I will explain the method in a second. But it's also, and people are like, the PR and some people in the PR industry are not as happy that I say it that way, but the PR industry is a very toxic industry in my opinion, because they want PR to be this mysterious thing, right? Most people think like it's some magic or whatever that you get into a magazine or that you get on TV or whatever. And the PR industry likes to keep it like this. And why? Because there is big money in PR. There is really big money in PR. So if you hire PR, depending on the size and the clients they have and what they will offer, they will charge you between 5 and 15K per month, right? And it's a 6 months investment commitment at least, because PR is a long-term game. You cannot start 1 month and then stop and then do it again. You have to really do this continuously. So this is how I like why I came up with it, right? To explain to my clients, but also more so for my prospects who were interested in work with me, to really let them understand or show them how this entire process works. Okay. So there are basically 6 steps to the process. And you have to imagine it like a little star. And in this star, because that's rock star, and if you see the graphic, there is also an electric guitar in between, because I'm a huge rock and heavy metal fan, but that's the details. But in the center of the star, there is a rock star offer. So the rock star offer stands for a couple of things. So it stands basically for the foundation that you need to have in place. And what that is you need to understand your ideal client, that you are able to pinpoint to to pitch the right media outlets and the right podcast shows. Then the second thing is you need to understand your expertise. You need to answer the question, what do I want to be known for? And you need to know this because this will help you to craft story angles for the media and speaking topics for podcast shows. Then obviously you also need to understand your goals, like what do you want to achieve with PR so that you can set up a strategy. And the last thing is, ideally you have an offer in place that you have sold before, because through the brand awareness, you get people into your world, and then you can also sell them something. And if you sell them something that you know already works because you've sold it before, it's easier for you to make money than if you develop something new and you use them as guinea pigs, right? And then you can still make money, but it's easier to make if you have a proven offer already. Now that's the foundation and step one. Now step two is the audience, right? So the audience stands for creating your media and podcast list. So on here, it basically comes down to doing your research, right? There is a lot of research involved in the beginning. There are shortcuts, of course, but whenever you write that list with every media outlet, with every podcast show, ask yourself, is this consumed by my ideal client? Are my ideal clients there? So that is the second step. The third step is the hit. And the hit stands for grabbing the attention of the journalist and the podcast host. Now, a podcast interview usually consists of 2 parts, which first is your brand story, and the second part is your expertise. Just like this interview. Like in the beginning, I shared my brand story, like why do I do what I do? And now I share with you my expertise, like my knowledge. And so for the podcast shows, you have to come up with a brand story and learn how to share it in an appealing way. And then you come up with a couple of topics that you talk about so that you can build your expert reputation. And then for journalists are interested in three things. One is the story, a great story. A great story evokes emotions, it's memorable, people can relate to it. Now, these are kind of things that journalists are looking for. The second thing is also your expertise. Now, these are all these how-to articles or the listicles or the one thing too. And then the third thing that really works like a charm is a strong. And why are journalists interested in that? Because they drive traffic and they increase the sales. As an example, so I pitched a lot why everybody should suffer from heartache at least once in their life. So that is not something that people want, right? Nobody wants to suffer from heartache, but it's something that I think is very healthy because it teaches you a lot, right? But that worked really well because it's very strong and it's not an average opinion. And another example would be if I pitch, if you send press releases, your PR really sucks. Because when you think of PR, people think of press releases and they don't work. I will come to that in a minute. So that is basically the hit, the third step. So think of the topics, think of your brand story, think of something valuable that you can offer. That's it in a nutshell. Then the fourth step is the stage. And the stage stands for writing and sending your pitch. Now, an email, like as I just said, we don't send press releases because they don't work. They still work with corporate, with big brands, household names. But if nobody have heard of you before, they don't work. And journalists also, they don't like them. So what you want to do is you want to send an individual email to a journalist. And then if you look at the if you look at the pitch that you send to a podcast host and to a journalist, they are similar, but they are not the same. The most important thing is that you need to build rapport with the person you're talking to, and you need to show them that this is not a copy paste message. This is the most important thing because journalists, they get between 150 to 300 pitches per day, right? So you better stand out. And podcast hosts, obviously the smaller podcast shows, it's easier to get on them, but the higher you climb the ladder, the more difficult it will be and the more you need to stand out and build that relationship. So that's it for the pitch. You write your pitch, you send your pitch. And then the fifth step is the performance, basically, right? So of course, for the podcast show, you prepare your interview. And then for the media, you have two options here. You can pitch yourself as a featured expert, which means the journalist interviews you on your story, on your expertise. Or, and this is what I always recommend when you start out, is you pitch yourself as a contributor. That means that you write a guest article for a media outlet. And in return, you get this little author bio, right? And in this author bio, you get to add a link that will link out to your website, link out to your lead magnet. That is basically the performance. And then the last step is the promotion. And the promotion stands for leveraging your media and podcast coverage for clients, cash, and reputation. And now here is like one of the biggest mistakes that I see is people, they do all this work that I just mentioned. They put in all the time, they get featured, and then they promote it on social media once, maybe twice when they're brave. And that's it. And there are so many more things that you can do to actually use this to get more clients. And this is what I teach my clients as well. So that's basically the framework, right? So in a nutshell, you have the foundation ready, then you write your media podcast list, you come up with something that is valuable to them, you write and send the pitch, you prepare your performance, and then once it's done, you promote it, and that's it. And that's PR, okay? It's not more and it's not less.
Wow, that is great. I love the 6 steps, so in detail, so much. And I think you also have a masterclass about that, where someone who is really interested
Yes.
to learn from you. And I think there are a lot. So are you regularly teaching that, or how does that work? How do they get access to that masterclass?
Well, they get access when they go to simonesauter.com/free-training, and then you can watch the masterclass there.
Okay, good. Yeah, you told us one misconception already about PR, that is PR is hard, which is not really the case. Are there any
No.
other misconceptions about PR that we should know about?
Yeah. One misconception is I need a PR agency to do PR. And that could not be further away from the truth. You can use them, but so I also offer done for you services, but from my experience as a journalist as well, and from the work that I do from all the years and my now done for you services and my own pitching for myself, journalists love the connection or the contact to the original source. It's always more difficult to get featured if somebody else pitches you. And of course it's possible, and it's, if you hire me, it's my job to follow up and to get you in there, but there is just like this boundary, like that journalists have to say, okay, we take the story, because there is always a person in between. And obviously they also take stories from PR agencies, right? Otherwise they PR agencies wouldn't work. But what I want to say is, if you do it yourself, it's easier because you pitch them as the entrepreneur and the same goes for podcast hosts. So I also offer done for you for podcast pitching, and I have quite some hosts asking me, hey, does your client also share the episode? And my clients are trained, so if you sign up with me, then I will also tell you need to promote the podcast show, because it's a two-way road, right? The podcast host allows you to get on the show and to share your expertise with our audience, and obviously that is positive for the podcast host, but their goal is always to grow their show, and they can only grow if the person who's on the show also shares it with their audience. So that's part of the strategy. And if you don't do this, then it's really bad. And it seems from the feedback that I get from podcast hosts, that a lot of guests they have that come through agencies don't do that, but they just use this to get themselves out there, and they forget about the host. And that's really bad, because you
So,
also want to build relationships, because you never know.
yeah. So do you have
Yeah, you never know how this will work out.
Yeah. So do you have a strategy? Because that's true. Yeah. Sometimes guests, they're on your show and they forget about, or you have to tell them, hey, could you share? So how do we get them to share? Is there a strategy that is really working that helps me to get my guests to share it?
Yeah. Well, not really, other than really just ask them before. You can also make it part of your agreements, right? So but then on the other hand, if they agree to it and they don't do it, what are you going to do about it? I would always follow up. Also follow up twice, like really be like, hey, I had you on my show and I really loved the interview, but I'd be really grateful if you could share it with your audience. But at the end of the day, you can't force them. As I said, I teach this to my clients, and I tell them how important it is, and also just from a human side, right? So for me, I get something, right? So I get on a show, and I'm allowed to present my expertise to an audience, of ideal clients, if you pick the right show, right? And then obviously the chance that you get clients from there, it's pretty high. It's my job to, as a thank you, say, so thank you that I get the exposure or be exposed to your audience. And as a thank you, I share the interview and help you grow, because it's a win-win. And this is how it works, right? If you want to have the one-way street, then you need to do ads. Then you drop the money, you pay for it, and then you don't have to do anything else. But PR is building relationships. It's working together. And you never know what grows from a podcast interview, right? So you talk to somebody, you share your expertise. Sometimes you have friendships that evolve from there. Sometimes you have even more things. Maybe you can give a masterclass and a paid membership, or they will invite you and you will be paid for something, or you become friends and you decide to host an event together, whatever it is, or they just recommend you to somebody else or send you a referral, whatever it is. It's just really, you need to keep in mind that this is a win-win situation, and it's not a one-way street. Again, if you want the one-way street, drop some cash into ads. That's fine as well. It's a legit strategy if you want that, but don't do this to podcast hosts.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And also not to journalists, by the way, because like a journalist, so also don't do this to journalists, because the journalists, they are underpaid and overworked, and they really want you to share their work. And if you get featured, then share it.
Since you mentioned journalists, and you have also mentioned before that we should write customized, really individual emails to the specific journalist, are there any other say mistakes if you don't do that when it comes to pitching to media and also to
Yeah.
podcast shows?
Yeah, so one is that I mentioned it a little bit in between the lines is like pitching the wrong media outlets, pitching the wrong podcast outlets, because that's what I see that people do a lot. I got featured there and there, and it's great when you get featured because you can say I've been featured in there and there, but then it's yeah, but I didn't get any signups, I didn't get any new clients. I was like, well, do your clients do your client actually consume that media outlet, right? And the offer oftentimes then is no, of course. Another mistake that people make is that they do not match their publicity with their offer. Now, what I mean with that is that, so let's say you have like, I'm now selling offers around PR, how to get featured in the media, right? Or on podcasts. If I now share my story, how I overcame my heartache and how like all the steps that I took, and then I would pitch my PR story, that would be like a really big disconnect. It doesn't make sense. So when I share about my heartache, I need to sell products about overcoming heartache. When I want to sell products around PR, I have to talk about PR, right? So it needs to match. So that is something that I also see. And then you need to have a logical call to that comes down to a similar thing. So what you want to do is you want people to sign up for your lead magnet, for example. But that the topic of the lead magnet needs to fit what you talk about, right? So if I talk about how to get into the media, and then my lead magnet would be how to write an outstanding landing page, well, that is a disconnect because it's not what I talked about, and people would be like, what the heck, like why? Okay, that, and then also what I touched on is they don't leverage the coverage. That's really a big mistake because you put in a lot of effort and you can get a lot out of just one feature.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for all your insights. They're very, very helpful for us to really become, let's say, a strong personal brand as a business owner. My last question to you: what does a strong personal brand mean to you? What does it have to have in order to break through the clutter, break through the noise? What does it have to have?
Well, as the word says, personal brand, it has to have personality and authenticity. Do not try to be everybody's darling. You're not everybody's cup of tea. I am certainly not, and I am certainly don't want to be. So there are people who love me, and there are people who just don't like me because they think I'm too much, I'm too loud, I'm too whatever, I'm too heavy metal, or I don't know. And I don't care, frankly, because there are other people out there who do the similar things than I do, and they have a better vibe for that particular person, right? And also, I will also never convince people to work with me. I attract people, right? I want people to work with me. And I think this is the most important thing to, if you look at a personal brand, like really be yourself. Don't really care. Don't really give a like I don't know how to say it without being, don't look at what other people do, just be yourself and be brave. And there is also a lot of what I said, mindset work, inner work required to show up as the person that you really are, and to not really give a f what other people think, but it's worth it, and it will also accelerate your business growth. Like when I look back at my very first business that I started, and it was called Dating Rocks. I was a breakup and divorce coach. Now that was like the really first big disconnect, because dating doesn't rock when you're just getting divorced. But anyway, if I look back at how shy I was really insecure. I didn't show up. I was just really, I was also sitting like this, hoping that nobody would see me, right? And now I'm just like, okay, this is who I am, and this is what you get. Either leave it, take it, or leave it, right? So if you like it, take it. If you don't like it, leave it. There is somebody else out there who serves you better than. And also being okay with that. I think this is really what a strong personal brand is and should be.
Yeah, take a stance, being authentic, know who you are. And this is, you're not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah.
That, and it's so true. And we have to be fine with,
Mhm.
and we have to really live above that. Yeah. All right,
Yeah,
Simone.
and understand that it does not say anything about your value. If people reject you, if people don't want to work with you, if people don't like you, it has nothing to do with your value, with your worth, with your self-worth, right? So because this is what I did, and what a lot of other entrepreneurs out there do as well. They translate this, oh, okay, people reject me, they don't like me, they don't like what I do, how I do things, so I am not good enough. And this is something that I had to work on, like, a lot. And I think this is very, very personal, also how your upbringing was, and like your life experience, of course. But I think this is one of the biggest things that entrepreneurs have to face, to really understand they are good enough just the way they are, and that if people reject them, that it has nothing to do with them, but it has to do with themselves and with their own. Yeah, that.
So true, so true. Thank you so much for this pointing your finger. Exactly that, because I think and I think especially women entrepreneurs have such a problem. Yeah. All right, Simone, I would like to finish up this conversation with an activity. I love to do that. I do it with everyone. It's a rapid fire terms I'm throwing at you, and you are answering top of mind. Can you do so?
Okay, all right, top of mind. So I don't think about it, and I just do it top of mind. Okay, wow. I
Just
love that. Okay, let's go.
okay, just a short like sentence or a word or whatever. Story.
Most powerful marketing tool.
Success.
Define it and be happy with it on your own terms.
Podcasts.
An amazing way to get new clients.
Yeah. Women empowerment.
The most important thing that we have to move forward in this world, to actually heal it, and to heal it, to make it a better place.
Yes. And lastly, brands. What does a brand mean to you?
A brand means success for me. If you have a great brand, then you will be successful no matter what.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Simone. Apart from your website and your LinkedIn, is there any other way of how people can get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm very big on LinkedIn, and I just decided for 2023 I will give Instagram a shot. So I created a new account there, which is _Simone Sauter _. So you can follow me there. I will launch it next week. And yeah, for the rest, like, I'm on LinkedIn and my website, simonesauter.com.
All right. Thank you so much, Simone, for being my guest today. It was a real pleasure learning from you the 6 steps of how to get featured in prestigious online magazines and podcast shows. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.